Let's take a look at the facial features. They include the eyes, mouth, nose, and ears. The eyes need to be set into eye sockets first. Then, glue them into place in the eye sockets. The mouth is embroidered. Before embroidering, you also need to create an indentation. The nose is a pre-made piece. Simply secure it with glue. The ears are crocheted. First, let's create the eye sockets. Find the position on the front of the head. The color change points here. Count down 6 rounds from the round with the color change. Then, count 3 stitches to the right. From the color change point on the left side, place a pin here as a marker. Then, do the same on the symmetrical position on the other side. Next, cut a piece of yarn in the same color as the marked positions. Thread the yarn through a sewing needle. Then, insert the needle from one marked position to the other marked position. Leave a little yarn tail. Next, insert the needle from the adjacent stitch on the left side to the adjacent stitch at the marked position on the right side. Then, insert the needle from one marked position to the other marked position again. Next, insert the needle from an adjacent stitch to another adjacent stitch. Then, insert the needle from the adjacent stitch on the right side to the adjacent stitch here. Then, insert the needle from this adjacent position to the symmetrical position. Next, remove the pin. Tighten the yarn tail. Thread this yarn tail back to the symmetrical position. Pull both yarn tails tight together. Then, thread the yarn tail to one side and tie off. Weave the yarn tail inside the head a few times to hide it. Like this, the eye socket is now formed. Next, take out the eyes. Apply a little glue to the back of the eyes. Then stick them into the eye socket. Like this, the eyes are installed. Now let's make the mouth. Similarly, you need to form a socket first. Find the position between the two eyes. Count down 4 rounds from the color change position. Below the 4th round, place a pin on each side of the stitches. Then cut a piece of the same color yarn. Insert it into the marked position. Then draw through the adjacent stitch. Insert it back into the marked position. Then draw through the other marked position. Insert it into the adjacent position on the right. Then bring the yarn tail to the bottom. Pull tight the yarn tail. Insert it into the adjacent position. Bring this yarn tail to the bottom at the same position. Then tie the yarn tail to secure it. Insert it a few times inside the head. Then mark a pin 2 rounds upwards from this dent. Mark another pin 5 stitches to the left and right. then above the dent. At the color change position, mark it. Then cut a piece of yarn in the corresponding color. Pull out one strand. Thread it into the sewing needle. Insert the yarn tail from any position to the marked position above. Then, insert it from the dent below. Next, insert it to the marked position on the left. Then insert it from this dent to the marked position on the other side. Bend the yarn tail slightly downward to create an arc. Apply a little glue to hold it in place. Then insert it from the same position. Bring the yarn tail back to the starting position. Bend the yarn tail to create an arc that is symmetrical to the left side. Apply a little glue again. Then tie a knot. Insert the yarn tail inside the head. This way, the mouth is completed. Next, take out the nose. Cut off the protrusion on the back of the nose. Then apply a little glue to the back. glue it securely above the mouth. Now let's look at the ears. They include both the part 1 and the part 2. Both are started with an adjustable magic ring. Work back and forth. The new stitch technique used is FVDC 2-in-1. Please watch me demonstrate. First, we'll work the part 1. Start with an adjustable magic ring. After completing the magic ring, work the first round. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Then work 4 single crochets into the magic ring. Close the magic ring. Like this. The first round is completed. Next, work the second round. The chart indicates, to turn the workpiece, chain 1 as the beginning chain. Turn the workpiece counterclockwise. Then pick up the stitches from the previous round. Repeat 2 single crochets and 1 SC 2-in-1. The second round is complete. Continue to the third round. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Turn the workpiece counterclockwise. Then repeat 3 times, 1 single crochet and 1 SC 2-in-1. The third round is complete. Next, let's work the fourth round. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Turn the workpiece counterclockwise. Then work 1 SC 2-in-1, 1 single crochet, and 2 half double crochets. After completing that, work 1 DC 2-in-1. That means working 2 double crochets in the same stitch. 1, 2. 1 DC 2-in-1 is completed. Finish the remaining stitches. Like this. The fourth round is complete. Everyone continue to work the fifth round. After completing it, leave a 30 cm tail, and fasten off the yarn. We will treat the wrong side of the last round as the right side of the ear. Weave in the end on this side. Like this. Part 1 is completed. Everyone use the same method to complete the other part 1. Next, sew the completed part 1 onto the head. First, determine the sewing position below the 8th round of the head. Align it roughly with the middle of the first round at the front. Secure it with a pin first. Note that the right side of the last round should face down, and the wrong side should face up. Fold from the middle of the ear downwards. Then sew along the bottom of the ear, and secure it firmly to the head. After completing it, hide the tail by threading it through the inside of the head a few times. Everyone can sew the other part 1 in the same way. Next, crochet the part 2. It's identical to the first 3 rounds of the part 1. You can finish this part by yourself. After completing them, weave in the tails on the right side of the 3rd round. Then apply glue on the right side of the 3rd round. Secure it firmly to the inside of the part 1. Complete the other one using the same method. This way, the instructions for making the ears are now complete. Next, let's look at the decorations. These include the belly, acorn bag, and patterns. The starting method for the belly is the same as the head. Refer to the chart to complete the belly. Weave in the tails on the right side of the fabric. I have already prepared this part in advance. Then, attach the belly to the front of the body. Make sure the wrong side of the fabric is facing out. That's it, the belly is now completed. Next, we'll make the acorn bag. This includes the bag body, the bag cover, and the strap. Both the body and the cover are started with a magic ring. The strap made up by chain stitches and sewn onto the body of the bag. The new stitch technique used is HDC 3 puff. Please watch me demonstrate. First, make the bag body. Refer to the stitch pattern in the chart. Complete the first 11 rounds, then move on to round 12. This round consists entirely of slip stitches. Skip the first stitch. Insert your hook into the second stitch of the previous round. Make one slip stitch. Note that you don't need to tighten this slip stitch. Then insert your hook into the next stitch on the left. Make one slip stitch. Insert your hook into the adjacent stitch, and make another slip stitch. You don't need to tighten any of the slip stitches in this round. Everyone, complete this round. After completing the last slip stitch, leave about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. Pull the yarn tail out. Thread the yarn tail through a sewing needle. Pick up the braid formed by the first slip stitch and pass through. Then insert the needle into the last slip stitch. Adjust the size of the braid. Then hide the yarn tail inside the bag body. Trim any excess yarn tail. Like this, the bag body is completed. Next, let's make the bag lid. First, complete the starting chain and the first round. Then work the second round. Work 2 chains as beginning chain. These 2 chains do not count as a stitch. The square brackets in the chart indicate working into the same position. First, work 1 HDC 3 puff. Start by working 3 incomplete half double crochets into the same position. Yarn over. Insert the hook into the first stitch. Pay attention to weaving in the ends. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. This is 1 incomplete half double crochet. Move on to the second one. Yarn over. Insert the hook into the same stitch. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. This is the second one. Move on to the third one. After completing it, yarn over, draw through all the loops on the hook once. 1 HDC 3 puff is completed. We'll refer to this as a puff stitch from now on. The braid on the right side of the hook is its stitch. Next, make 1 chain stitch. Then, make the second puff stitch. First, make 3 incomplete half double crochets in the same stitch. One. 2. 3. Then yarn over, and draw through all the loops on the hook once. Another puff stitch is completed. Next, make one chain stitch. That's how you complete the stitch pattern in the square brackets. I'll demonstrate it again. First, make one puff stitch in the adjacent stitch. Then, make one chain stitch. Then, make one puff stitch in the same stitch. Make one chain stitch again. The second one is completed. 4 more to go. Everyone, finish them. After the last stitch is completed, join with a slip stitch into the first puff stitch. Pull tight. That's how you complete the second round. Now, let's work the third round. Start with 2 chains as the beginning chain. The square brackets in the chart also indicate working in the same position. The curly brackets are the same as the parentheses before, both indicating a group. The number after asterisk means repeat that many groups. First, work the first group. Start with the first set of stitches in the square brackets. Work them in the chain space between the first 2 puff stitches from the previous round. Work 1 puff stitch and 1 chain. Then, work the second set of stitches in the square brackets in the chain space on the left side. Work 1 more puff stitch and 1 chain. Then, work 1 more puff stitch and 1 chain. That completes the second set of stitches in the square brackets. This way, you have completed 1 set of stitches in the curly brackets. Let me demonstrate it again. First, in the chain space on the left side, work 1 puff stitch and 1 chain. Then, in the next chain space, work 1 puff stitch and 1 chain. In the same space, work 1 more puff stitch and 1 chain. This is the second set of stitches in the curly brackets. There are 4 more sets to go. Work them all. When you're done, join with a slip stitch to the first puff stitch. Pull tight. That's it. The third round is completed. Now move on to the fourth round. Make 2 chains as the beginning chain. In this round, you'll be working in the chain spaces between the puff stitches from the previous round. Work 1 puff stitch and 1 chain in each space. Finish them all. When you're done, join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. The fourth round is completed. Now let's move on to the fifth round. Make 1 chain as the beginning chain. Then, in the first puff stitch, work 1 single crochet. Next, in the adjacent chain space, work 1 single crochet. Then, in the puff stitch on the left side, work 1 single crochet. In this round, you'll be working in the puff stitches and the chain spaces between the puff stitches. From the previous round, working single crochets in sequence. Everyone, finish this round. When you're done, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. Leave about 20 centimeters of yarn tail, and cut the yarn. Next, we'll work on the decorative elements for the bag cover. Start with 4 chains. Then, from the second chain from the hook, work slip stitches in the back loops all the way down. There's no need to pull these slip stitches tight. Then leave about 20 centimeters of yarn tail, and cut the yarn. Next, sew it to the center of the bag cover. There's no specific sewing method required, just make sure it's sewn securely. Hide the yarn tails inside. Then, sew the completed bag cover to the bag body. Insert the sewing needle into the reserved yarn tails. Align the joining positions of the bag cover with the joining positions of the bag body. Then pick up a few stitches and sew to secure. Once completed, tie a knot on the bag cover. Hide the yarn tails inside the bag cover. This way, the bag cover is finished. Next, work the strap. Make 1 chain. Reserve about 20 centimeters of yarn tail at both ends. The length depends on your needs. The sample here is 32 centimeters long. Next, sew the strap to both sides of the bag. Secure with a few stitches, then hide the yarn tails inside the bag. On the other side, sew in the same position symmetrically. Use the same method to sew it securely. Pay attention to not twisting the chain. This way, the Acorn mini bag is completed. Next, make the pattern. Make them on the back of the head and body, as well as on the tail. There are 3 lines right behind the head. After completing those, make 2 lines on each side. Then, make 3 lines on the back of the body. Finally, make the ones on the tail. Start with the line in the middle of the head. Take a strand of felted wool. Begin from below the 6th round of the head. Right in the middle between the 2 ears. First, secure the starting position by poking it in a bit. Then, continue all the way to the bottom of the head. Secure a few points first. Adjust the shape properly. We need to secure all the patterns. Fix a few points for each one. Once the positions and shapes are confirmed, poke them all securely. For the 2 lines on the sides, they should be 4 stitches away from the middle line above. Similarly, secure the top position first. Then, continue all the way to the bottom of the head. Adjust the shape slightly. Secure a few more points. Next, do the 2 thin lines on the sides. Start from the color change positions on both sides. Poke an arc. The other side should be symmetrical. Then, secure the 3 lines on the body part. Use the same method. The middle one. Follow the middle line of the head, all the way to the middle of the tail. The other 2. Start from below the head, and spread outwards. Next, make the ones on the tail. First, complete the one aligned with the middle of the body. Start from the second to last round of the tail, and go all the way to the first round. Similarly, secure a few points first. Adjust the shape. Then make the one in the symmetrical position below. After these 2 are completed, make 2 more on each side. Position them roughly evenly. Once all the patterns are in their correct positions, secure them firmly. That's it. The pattern making process is now explained. Up to this point, the making method for this chipmunk toy is fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next episode.